80% of the community wasn't working. Close to 80% of the people grew up in single parent homes. You mean, and but still there was a lot of community.
Right.
You mean, it was like everybody looked after one another.
Out of all the guests we brought here, they all say the same thing. Community is the number one thing they have in common.
Oh, that was back in the day. It was.
Yeah.
You mean, but I did 37 years of prison. I just got out last year after doing the 37, and what I saw was a whole different world in terms of community. It's a Baltimore that took me by surprise. You know, I didn't know this Baltimore.
Wow.
You mean, some of the people I understood, and that's why I say today is worse than it was then. You mean, in terms of poverty seems to have gotten worse. You got a system that's have a lot of blacks in the mayor's office, on the police department, yet they don't seem to be doing nothing for the communities. You mean, or not enough, or they can't do it. I mean, I can put that another way. In some administrations, it's been better because I've been listening to news even while I was in prison. But when it gets to today, that I think that people are trying to do better, but it's on an individual basis, and we're going to have to bridge the gap in order to get something done. And that's, at one point, I wasn't too good with police officers. I can tell y'all right now.
I want you, of course.
I mean,
that's what this is for.
To me, the police officers was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't the solution. I mean, they was they go past around the neighborhoods and they victimize and oppress the community. They wasn't there to give community protection, but more of the opposite. I grew up when it wasn't, but like I could only think of 2 black police officers that was around in East Baltimore, and the rest of them was white or Irish or something like that. Today is different.
Right.
How was that back then? The white officers, were they really racist towards African Americans in that time, or was it some blacks as well?
I think the few black officers, they was really trying to help, but it ain't too much you can do to help because they was on the ground. It wasn't too much they can do to help because they got to act towards their superiors and go on a different route. Baltimore been pretty tough with the police department. To me, I would say all the way up until it got noticed in 2015 with the Freddie Gray stuff. Yeah, I think they've been going in and out of doing things. I think that not as a whole, but you always got some good officers and you got some bad ones.
Right.
You mean, and it's according to maybe the community. I grew up in a tough community. There was a lot of crime involved, and so when the officer came up, he responded, I guess, to what he was trained to respond to in that community. You mean, and the people in the community was pretty trained to do what they do when the officer comes up.
Right.
You mean, so it wasn't nothing in the middle that could make too much sense.
Right.
In terms of bridging the gap.
Gotcha.
Ain't no bridging the gap.
It wasn't happening.
Ain't no bridging the gap.
Right.
So when you get to the mayor's office, it's pretty much the same thing. I guess in the pit, when I call it a pit, is like into poverty. They like people that they wasn't concerned about that much. You're concerned about middle class or the taxpayers, and there wasn't that many people having jobs there. So it was a little different. So,
how did you feel? Of course, the media paints the picture of you being the biggest kingpin and label you as such. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, they're entitled to that. I mean, to me, I did try to do the best I could do with what was available. And if there was, drugs and crime, that was pretty much me. And at the time, I loved what I was doing.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. And I'm thinking that I'm doing the best for my community and the people I care about on my own. Because I couldn't get no help from the police department to help the community or me. Outside of being oppressed, I couldn't get no help from no one else, and even in terms of jobs and I don't know, it get tough. I'd like to ask even one of y'all a question.
Please do.
If you, what could you do with a kid? They got two younger siblings. He's 16. He go look in the refrigerator, and there's nothing to eat, and it's cold in there, and it's in the wintertime. And he said, "I'm gonna go out and try to make something happen." What could you do to make him stop?
Well, coming from where I'm from, I can understand with that. I understand where that stems from, or how it can make you feel, and making you want to do something just to put a nice hot plate for yourself and your siblings. So, coming from that element, that area, knowing what I know now, and guiding people and delegating people, it's all about resources. So it's nothing for me to break down that barrier if I can with that young child, which most of the time I do based off my rapport and how I present myself to people. It's nothing to talk to that individual, let him know, listen, I've been there, bro. I understand what you're going through. But listen, we're doing something different now. You don't have to go out here and rob and steal. Let me show you another way. Let me give you a plan of action to better yourself so that you, and bettering yourself, you can better your siblings' future and your future. So here's some resources, people that I'm going to reach out to personally, just to put you on board, to shape you any way I can. And it's not just about me. It's about having other people. You know, that saying is true. It takes a village to raise a child. Sometimes that village comes in a blue uniform, especially when it's coming from the white one. That's going to put you on that right path. Because when you've been there, you know what that feeling is like. You'd be a damn fool if you continue that cycle. How does that culture change? Without having the right ones in position them in power to help that kid, to help that family.
I mean, so the question was asked to me, how I feel about it with the drug game and out in the streets and doing different crimes and stuff to make it. The way I saw it, that I was really helping the community more than I was hurting. You mean, because I was that source that where you could come get something to eat, you can get something to eat from me.
Absolutely.
If you had a bill, you could get some money to help pay your bill. If it was something else going on and I could stop it, I would stop it.
Mm-hmm.
You mean, so I was a source of help for the community, even though I was doing wrong at the time. I mean, it took me a while to realize that I was hurting more than I was helping. And when I say a while, it took me throughout this 37 years before it really hit me through continuing in education, reading, studying, and looking at the issues as they was coming up, that I was actually hurting the community more than I was helping it.
Mm-hmm.
You mean, but still at the time I'm thinking I'm doing the best I can to help it, and I didn't see nothing wrong with it at all. You mean, I guess today I would say there are other ways to do it. If the police department, and I heard what you said, you mean, but you one person, but if the police department would try to bridge a gap where they could be assisting in communities instead of oppressing, then I don't see nothing wrong, because it's about helping the community at the end of the day. You mean, today I see like the neighborhoods, blocks of houses, it might be up to close to 18,000 vacancies in Baltimore today.
Yep.
And there's trash and stuff everywhere. You mean, so after a while, living in those areas, it takes a psychological effect on the kid.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You mean, with the violence and stuff that's going on with youngsters today, I guess if we was to bridge a gap between policies that's pushed out through the mayor's office and city council and the police department and the community leaders, I mean, together, I think it could make a difference. And I have a program. My program is King Renaissance. It's designed around returning citizens.
Mm.
And the thing is to bring down recidivism and start working towards the violence, to break it down, because a lot of the times we are self-inflicting. And I want to give a shout out to a few other programs, and that's Positive Impact 410 and challenge the change. I mean, it's a few groups, some other groups, but these groups that's on the ground really trying to make a difference
Right.
with what's going on down there.
I mean, I read articles that you did help the community as far as like, you know, feeding people, and at the time, you know, it's documented. But when it comes to the police department, the community has to understand that we're there to provide a specific service. As far as like cleaning the community, vacants, and like programs, like I know PAL, or what did they call it here? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, that's PAL.
Y'all call it PAL down here too?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Police Athletic League.
Right.
But they got
that was closed down, but it wasn't like our choice. It came from like the lack of funding from, you know, downtown. Things like that need to be implemented again so that these kids have, you know, places to go. Because we have neighborhood services units.
if you grow, I don't want to cut you off. If you grow up and they got different traditions. I guess you from New York. I guess in New York, y'all got traditions of how you live. You mean you got Brooklyn. Brooklyn grew up a certain way. Manhattan. You mean you got traditions in every community.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing here in Baltimore. You got traditions. You mean the kids grow up and that's what they know. You mean that's how they learn, and this stuff been passed down from generation to generation, and up until now. What you see now is what's been going on. So with bridging the gap is like a new beginning. I mean, people might have thought of it, but into working towards bridging the gap, I haven't seen it. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Programs been implemented, but the gap never got bridged.
Gotcha.
Right.
You mean, so if this is a true sign of bridging the gap, I know I'm 100%. And when I was into crime, I was 110% in.
Gotta be.
And that's the way it was, and whatever come with it, come with it. But today is another way to get things done, because my desire is still to help the community and help the youth to move forward and live productive lives, but we can do it in a way where we don't have to continue to hurt ourselves and be able to grow out of certain conditions.
Let me ask you a question. How's that conversation now with you talking to the youth?
I talk to the youth all the time, but I can understand the youth. I mean, I can understand the traditions. You mean, but to say something is bridging the gap, say something is we got a chance to change. I mean, you just saying something. Now it comes down to producing it. They got to see it.
Now I'm talking about just the personal, just you talking individually with.
I go out every day.
How's that conversation with them?
I have a great conversation with the youth. I mean, I got a great rapport with the youth.
Right. I'm sure you do. I'm just curious on, you know, what they get from you as opposed to what they get from somebody else in preaching.
What they get from me is real. You mean that I understand the traditions, what they grew up with, I understand why they are where they at. And if I know more about their personal situation in terms of housing and parents' situation, I can understand that. A lot of things happen with mass incarceration. You lock up all of the men, and this has been going on record since 1994, but it's been before then. You get mass incarceration, so who bring the kids up? The kids got to be raised up on their own, and it's not a whole lot of older people that from where they're at that can tell them this story. You mean, but today there's a lot of people coming home, and there are a lot of us out there talking, including me, and talking to the kids and trying to show them another way, but we got to walk them through it. And walking them through it, we need help, and then help is bridging the gap.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it alone.
Absolutely.
Right.
You mean, if a kid get locked up for some bullshit in the community, instead of locking them up, I mean, why you just can't take them home and look and try to talk to them? That's where you can help them. You mean when they done fucked up and you got them?
Absolutely.
Now this is the time, man. Come on, man.
Let me take you home, so I can
I'm gonna
talk
take
to
you
what's
home,
there.
and we're gonna make some sense of this.
Absolutely.
Right.
You mean, that's what bridging the gap is to me with police officers.
That's what it is. It's
When an
not,
officer is able to do that,
right.
then I can say they're working towards bridging the gap.
Because it's not about locking a kid up.
It ain't about locking them up.
Right.
When you lock a kid up for juveniles, they spending $148,000 a year to keep a juvenile in prison. You mean, and it's been said 76% with recidivism, 76% of the kids that come home from juvenile facility goes back in 2 years. 85%,
2 weeks.
85 in 2 years. 85% goes back in 5 years. So is the juvenile system actually working? I mean, if they keep going back, as a juvenile when I got locked up, the same people I saw in the prisons at 12, I saw in the penitentiary at 65. I mean, so if they were still living.
Right.
So, I mean, is it actually working? Is it actually working? Is it better for the state to lock a young kid up and spend $148,000 on them and create jobs versus the kid coming out in 2 years, 76% going back into juvenile services? I mean, these are problems we got to work with bridging the gap.
Yeah, it's going to take all of us.
Right.
Can you speak to when we were talking off camera? You like really schooled me on like consistency. So me coming from South Baltimore, like you said, like I said, I go out there and talk to them every now and then. You like no, but consistency is the thing that's going to help them.
Yeah.
Can you expound upon that as well?
If,
About being consistent.
if you go out there, if you do have a good system in your head, and you go to a kid and you tell them all of this advice where you give up your resources and all of that kind of stuff to help them move forward. If you ain't out there with that kid every day, that kid can't reach you every day, that shit don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing to them kids. I mean, it's okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess at the end you go home and live on you'll pick a fence somewhere. But they got to live down there in the pit and try to make things happen the best way they can. So until we're able to bridge the gap and be there for that kid every day when they need us, we just a call away. If we're not right there, we're a call away.
Right. We'll get there.
We can get some type of influence on the situation and let them know that he is cared for and it do make a difference. And he make a difference. And what happens today and how you move forward. Then we got a great chance of winning the battle.
No, I agree, but you know what? That also has got to be reinforced at home as well.
That's a huge part.
Because reality is, you reaching that officer every day, on top of the things that we have to do, we're not going to be there every beck and call, but a phone call, talking, absolutely. Being face-to-face every day, that's just not reality.
Yeah. And bridging the gap, it ain't about the officer only. And bridging the gap is about everybody, the leaders in the community that he can reach. It's about a good family member if they have a good family member.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's about the officer. And it's about the court systems that understand what's going on. Because with all of the people getting locked up, all of the people getting killed, the murder rate keep going up and crime that haven't changed. I mean, this shit been going on year after year. One administration come in and they say this, and another police commissioner come on and he going to do it this way. But at the end of the day, the numbers come out the same.
Yep.
That's true.
I mean, so you got all these great ideas, but what's really making a difference? You got all of these programs with different things you do, but don't nothing change with the numbers. I mean, so it seemed like the same thing that's going on with the juvenile facility with $148,000 a year for one kid that you won't get $5,000 to stay out of jail, but you'll spend $148,000 to put them in juvenile facility. I mean, and bridging the gap, it means that everybody get down together and support one another. If I can't be there, then I can call on someone else. Look, I can't make it. Tell them I'll be there the next time, or I'll catch them later. But I can't be, and I can explain it when I do see them. It's about keeping your word.
Absolutely.
And being responsible. You mean for people that's less.
Right. Absolutely. And that means more than anything to them is your word. Because when you come from that, man, and you see just a speck of light at the end of that tunnel, and you rely on that, and if that person doesn't follow through with it, it just crushes your dreams completely.
They used to being crushed. They
Yeah.
grew up being crushed.
They grew
A
up
bunch of
that way.
line motherfuckers. They used to it. If people spill, put their best line out, and I mean, if it helps them through that day, it helps them, but it don't help the kid none.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they used to that lie, but when you're there and it ain't a lie, it makes a difference.
Right.
And that's the best thing. I like the title with Bridging the Gap. I think that's what's really needed. I mean, for community leaders, police officers, mayor's office, governor's office. I mean, everybody join in with trying to help. If you want to bring these numbers down with the violence, just helping people begin to live. I mean, how you going to live in deep poverty, and then somebody else that's living in a whole different situation with a whole different setup of economic situations, and then you say that, oh, you need to change this and you need to change that. How can you tell me that?
Right.
Right, when they were never taught.
I mean, you're not living down here.
Right.
After you finish your speech, you go right back home.
Right. Yep. It's a sad reality. It's crazy that that's like every hood across this country. All hoods are like, they all have the same issues.
Yeah, but until that gap is bridged,
Right.
I mean, hopefully, like Baltimore could be a model
Right. That would be nice.
in making a change, because it can change. But it can't change just because you put the gun down. But you got to just about your living conditions.
There's got to be employment.
It's the living conditions. You mean you got to live in a house where you comfortable with sleeping there without bed bugs and all that stuff. Where there's food in the refrigerator.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm a firm believer, right, because of this, what I do for a living, and the way I grew up. I'm a firm believer that I would say 90% of people are not bad. I believe it's the circumstances, where they grew up. If they feel like they gotta make something shake, like they got a daughter, a little baby, and there's no job, they're gonna go outside and they're gonna make something happen. But if there's work, whether it's a factory, whether it's anything, I feel like most human beings will go to work instead of choosing to go the other way. I do believe that.
I said it earlier. It's like I could live in this house, and I believe like I chose crime to come out of poverty.
Because of your circumstances.
Yeah, because of my circumstances.
Right.
I chose crime. But the guy next door to me, his whole family chose education. He living in the same poverty.
Yeah.
I had a sister that chose education. She living in the same house. You mean just that my personal choice, I chose crime. You mean you got some people, they could choose religion, some people could choose school, some people could dream and hold on to their dream that one day I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. You mean, but for me, I was dreamed out. You mean the only way that I saw that
I feel
Right. Yeah.
he said enough is enough of this shit.
true.
I'm going to get it.
I'm going to get mine.
Right.
I have to
Right.
make some changes, and if I can help somebody else along the way, I'm helping, and it's an open door to anybody that want help that's coming this way. You mean, but today I'm saying the same thing. To say I'm saying the same thing, I'm 100% in, but I'm going the other way. You mean without crime? You mean there's so many other ways to get this done.
Yeah.
Right.
And you keep your morals, you keep your principles. You ain't about that like you got to rat on somebody to make it. You could be a man and make it.
Absolutely.
I mean, you ain't got to tell on nobody. You could just stand up and say, "This is what I want. I'm gonna work for it."
Right.
Can you also talk about your civil actions as well, early on in the 60s as well, that kind of shaped the kind of leader that you were and the leader that you are? Like some of the some of the things that were going on even in Baltimore that you were frontlining.
We was talking about when I was in prison. It was this correctional officer. He seen this kid. The kid used to be a crack seller. He used to sell crack. So the correctional officer talking real dirty to him, man, get your ass in the motherfucking unit, and talking real bad to him. So I'm looking at him, and I went up to the officer, man, I need to talk to you. Can I talk to you for a minute? Straight up, you're not an officer, and I'm not in. I want to talk to you man to man. So he said, well, sure, we got that conversation. So I said, well, in the 60s, specifically 68, I was on the front line for civil rights, out there riding, tearing up shit. And every time something happened, anywhere that had to be involved with a black, we responded to it. And in the process of it, I became a minister of society because I keep getting locked up for crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
You mean, but some of my anger was towards things that was going on around me.
Mm.
So now I'm saying that after 68, it was a sad thing about Martin Luther King, but what it did is open up a whole lot of doors for blacks. Now it wasn't just 2 police officers in my community no more that was black. They started harm blacks all over around the country with different things. You mean, where it was a lot different. So I'm telling the officer there, like, it wasn't no black officers in the federal system 20 years ago. Now, we over 50% of here. What you think that came from?
Mm-hmm.
You mean, you could look at my file. My file said I got locked up that day. You mean, so now you reaping the benefits of it. You mean, with affirmative action, you reaching the benefits of it where you're allowed to have this job. Now you're gonna put your nose up on somebody else. So he said, "Well, Mr. King, I'm not speaking to you. I respect you, but I said you gotta respect that kid too. I mean, that kid is going through his journey.
Right.
You
Right.
know, he's not gonna always be that way. I mean, you gotta work with him. That's part of bridging the gap. Understanding where a kid is at, how they got there, and giving them the space to come out of it."
Powerful. I love it.
Yeah, that's profounding, you know what I'm saying?
So, 37 years. How was that, man? Like, what's your mental got to be like to do 37 years?
The way I saw it, I mean, doing 37 years, it just, to me, it was, I didn't look at it all the time. I looked at one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one book at a time, one project at a time. You mean, doing what I could this year or this month to make it through the next month and through the next year. And you keep working your way through, you keep reading books, and you keep pushing and looking at things that's going on and trying to make a difference inside as well as outside, I mean, with your knowledge base as you begin to understand more. And it evolved to where I'm at now. I mean, my focus hadn't changed with helping the community. The only thing changed is the way I can go about helping the community.
Right.
So personal development, reading, educating yourself, that's prepared you for the new life that you're taking on now.
And not just that, and understanding what's around me, understanding the youth around me, understanding the different traditions and how they was forced on. Some of the youth might be assholes, but they might have a good right to be assholes according to what they had to go through.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
You mean, so now it comes down to bridging the gap. It comes down to understanding that kid,
Right.
or that adult, understanding them and try to work with them, give them the information, let them know that, you mean, you there too. I can understand. I've been through every step.
Yeah, because some adults are some big ass kids too.
Yeah, I've been through every step.
Right.
You mean, it ain't no step I don't think I'd have missed with being fucked up. You mean, in terms of trying to make it, doing whatever I can. I must have done everything I could think about doing. But it's a miracle I made it through, and my focus hasn't changed. My focus is still the community, and I'm fighting hard every day with trying to bridge the gap between, the minorities, people that don't have nothing, and bring them up to let them know that they can, because the city is torn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in a way that's never been torn before.
You know what? One of the biggest reasons why we wanted to do this podcast is to let people know that we're here to serve. Every voice needs to be heard. This podcast is it's not about us. Of course, we do the job the way it's supposed to get done. And our interactions with the inner city youth and dealing with them where we worked made things easier. So that's why we want to bring everybody on.
I'm honored to be here to talk to you all, and I've been trying hard since I've been out. I've been in the governor's office explaining the way I see things, how they've been and where they at, and how I think they could change. I went in the mayor's office doing the same thing. I continue to express myself to city council. I'm in the community as much as possible. You mean I'm always a phone call away. You mean so? I've been home now for 18 months.
Wow.
How's that been?
It's been a working process, but
But I tell you, you look good.
But I've been working it.
Let me hold something. I know you got it.
Yeah.
You mean, but I'm actually working hard and trying to show, because you got to be example of what could happen.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And if I don't look good, I mean, how can I help you look good?
I know that's right. My man, they got no socks on. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And it's cold as hell.
That's all right.
That's right.
But that's what it is.
Right.
Nah, that's a beautiful thing. So you grew up on the east side?
Yes, I grew up on the east side.
Nice. Now, when you go, when you travel by the east side, what's it like now? How's the energy?
The energy is good with me in the communities. I mean, all over the east side, west side, south side. You know, I mean, anywhere I go in Baltimore, it's pretty much the same thing.
It's all love.
It's all love. I mean, because I did as much as I could do when I was going one way, and I'm still doing much as I can do when I'm going this way. You mean, so it ain't the way I'm going, is where my heart was at. My heart was doing the same way, doing much as I could do.
Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, I swear you're a pillar in what we're trying to do, and it's honored, you know, just to have you on, just to get your perspective. You know, like you said, we can't do this by ourselves. So what better person than to have than you, that's born and raised from here, and you're still active and out there trying to serve the community and let them know it's a better way out.
Right.
And you know, who better than you that's been there and done that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want nobody to serve 37 years in prison or life in prison because of something that they overlook. You mean, because while you doing the bid, you're gonna be running into the law library and trying to figure all this shit out and say, damn, it was I made one mistake.
Right.
Yep.
You mean, so what I'm saying is that maybe my life could be an experience for other people to learn from.
Mm.
You mean, maybe it's a mistake that I can correct before it get too late. You mean, because if you want to be there for your kids and your family, you can do that and still make it to where you go at, and you still could be stand up straight. You mean, there ain't nothing wrong with working or getting a business and working your way up and being able to take care of your family and look out for your community.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's what it's all about anyway.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Mr. King, like, you know what you lived, and now with your testimony, you are helping people. You are helping save lives. Because now, like he said, they getting it from a real one. And if you say, yo, there's a better way, they're going to take your word for it. You know?
Yeah. I just said it to youngsters before in another way. It's like, when you look at me, what you looking at?
Mm.
And then I could tell you what I'm looking at when I look at you.
I know. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. See?
Damn. What the fuck?
Give him a couple minutes. It's going to come out.
Damn.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
Shit.
Yeah,
that should give me goosebumps.
right.
That's real. I haven't heard something like that in a while. But that's a fact.
So, Mr. King, in your spare time, what do you like to do? What outlets do you have? Do you like to play chess?
I play chess some. Yeah, man, I was just talking to my man over. He got this poker game back there.
I keep telling him.
Peeping it.
I do hold him all day.
He been peeping it. He
He
said,
been checking it out?
yeah, bro. He was like, he trying to get me to play. I said, I know about my OGs.
Yeah, but I do play chess. You mean, but what I really like to do is work towards, helping somebody else, trying to get themselves together.
That's perfect.
That's what I really like to do. I mean, I do that even when I play.
Right.
That's what I do. And that's giving it 100%. Anything I could do, anywhere I'm at, it's a part of that.
So you'd say your life's work from here on out is just whoever you can talk to?
Yeah, it's a part of everything I do. I mean, I'm here to try to serve and help in any way I can, even though I'm enjoying myself. But in enjoying myself, I'm still working.
Absolutely. Nah, that's beautiful. Are you a Raven fan?
Yes, and I'm definitely a Raven fan.
Okay.
I guess you New York Giants.
No,
I'm going to say we played.
I'm Jets all
I
day.
think we played y'all
The
this week.
Giants over here. Giants over here. Yeah, you play the Giants this week. Yeah, he's a Jeff fan. I'm a Giant fan.
Yeah, I hope we smash y'all this week.
I mean, Lamar's a problem. I mean,
Yeah, Lamar's the beast, man.
I ain't gonna lie, he's probably gonna Swiss cheese that defense. So I'm already expecting that.
Right.
I mean, Mr. King, I'm more so of a historian, right? Like, I love history.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question about history. And it's about drugs, because I love, like, getting drugs arrested. I grew up, like, my mom's a substance abuse counselor. Where I grew up, it was a very heavy cocaine-based neighborhood. Now, my question is, Baltimore City, why is Baltimore City a heroin city instead of, like, you know, like LA is a cocaine city. You know, you go to the hood, they do like crack. But why is? Because I think of the East Coast, and I think of like heroin on the East Coast. You only really think about Baltimore, because heroin's not really that big in New York City or in Boston. Why was it like? How did that come about?
Now, heroin was big in New York. I don't know, maybe right now. No, we talking about before 86, 84.
See, I like
we
that.
talking about we talking about we going back a little bit, like
yeah.
in the 60s and 70s. I mean, New York, cocaine and crack wasn't even heard of, but cocaine was thin. I guess that was a rich guy's high or something.
Right.
Always been.
But more to the streets, it was something different. But every decade, it seemed like things change. They go from heroin to coke to crack to perps to, I mean, something like every 10 years, it seems like the whole thing switches, and it goes from one thing to another. I mean, that's just from my personal observation. And
no, that actually makes sense.
And then when people respond, they're responding from what they grew up in. I mean, you could hold some of the same traditions, but you're responding from what you grew up in. And the drugs change. I mean, the highs change. I mean, but the traditions and the way people live pretty much stay parallel. You mean, and we're losing. We're losing. I think it's very important to go back to bridge the gap, because we are losing all the way around that rim. You mean, in terms of young youth coming up, we're using a lot of more mothers today to violence. We're losing the kids today in a more vicious way to violence. And it's something that got to be looked at. I mean, I commend Mayor Scott when he talked about his comprehensive plan. I haven't yet to see it, but it's something that it's the only way this can happen. I don't have the resources to make the changes that I think that's needed. It's going to have to take a bridge. It's going to have to take different communities to come together to get this done, because I don't have the resources to do it.
Right.
I mean, I could do what I can personally. You mean, I can help one person at a time, or maybe a small group at a time from a personal perspective, but we need the community, we need the mayor's office, we need the police department, and everything else we can get. I mean, we need in terms of assets to change this thing. And I think everybody's mind is there. I think all the attention is there to do it. So now it comes down to doing it. One thing for sure, I'm going to be 100% with what I do. I don't really care about if somebody else hold up or not.
There you go. Get a mic.
You mean, I'm a do me.
Absolutely.
You mean, and then the community and everybody else can count on that. And that's one reason why I'm here today.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. We want the community to know that, you know, this podcast, we love the voice. We love everybody to come in and just tell us how you feel.
Yeah, because everybody has a story.
Right.
That can contribute to help other people live better.
Absolutely.
Not make the same mistakes.
Because that's what it's about, you know? It's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
But so far, that's where we've been at.
Right.
Right.
You mean, but I really think that we at the cornerstone of making the change.
I hope we are, because we definitely gonna do our part.
Right.
And I also want to let you know what was it? It was King Renaissance.
Yeah, King Renaissance.
Listen, if you need some phenomenal looking detectives to come on out there and help you, we with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like putting boots to the concrete.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come a time where everybody's going to need to be there.
Yeah.
You know, if any support that I can get from any group or organization in terms of helping, because it's all a whole. You got to look at it from a whole perspective. I mean, holistically, instead of, from the side. It ain't no side part.
Right.
It ain't no side part. It might be something I could do in an environment that maybe nobody else could do. If that's the case, let me get in there.
Absolutely.
If it's something that you could do that nobody else can do, man, move out the way, let you in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it should be.
And that's how we got to get this done.
Yes, sir. Couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely.
Triple C.
Yo.
What else you got, baby?
Nothing, man. It was.
All right, well, listen. Where we at? Episode 52.
52.
I enjoyed this conversation and being on the podcast. I really like the topic, bridging the gap, and it's something I could do anytime. I'm open to it.
Well, sir, you're more than welcome to come back.
I appreciate you, sir. If there's anything we could do in helping you, let's do it, because it's nothing like being on the same page and actually putting the action plan together and going about handling it. Because the more they see us, the more they see you, the more they see both of us together, the more it knocks down that bridge.
Yeah.
And more build that bridge.
And it builds it.
Yeah, build it.
It builds that rapport. It lets them know that we're not just talking. We got a face to come with what we're doing.
Yes.
And that goes a long way. So if anything we could do, please let us know, and we'll be there. That's not a problem at all. But
and we also believe this is an amazing town.
I love Baltimore.
This town has so much potential. So like what you said with us together,
right?
It just makes everything easier.
Absolutely.
And growth could come out of that. More growth in those neighborhoods that need it.
Because they really do need it.
Yeah, absolutely. It ain't just the nice areas.
No.
This whole city, when you drive around, is dope. Like, it's a beautiful city. But, it needs that TLC.
That's it. A lot of it.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's a lot of opportunity. I guess the thing for us to do is make it happen, because it's here.
Yes, sir.
Ain't no reason why Amazon has, like, the largest warehouses here. They're building up there's a new warehouse in Amazon here for a reason, like every week, because they see the opportunity in this town, and it's the location, like geographically, like it's just beautiful.
It's everything. So Triple C, that's what I'm talking about, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this time to thank Mr. Peanut King for coming out. He's such a pillar to Baltimore and the community and just the city itself. And what better way to have someone of his stature come here and drop a jewel on the earth and the world. That's someone that's been there and done that. And someone that agrees with our perspective of bridging the gap. It don't get no better than this. This is the direction we're going, and we're trying to just help and uplift everybody. And don't forget to smile. Just smile and love each other. That's all we're here to do. By the way, this is episode 52. Joe, what you got?
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Mr. King, would you like to shout out anybody before we depart, sir?
If you want to get in contact, you get King Renaissance Inc. or Positive Impact 1410. And I'd like to thank everybody, man, and hopefully that we can get this done, moving to 2021 the right way.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Couldn't agree with you more. Well, that's about it. That's not my phone.
So good.
So everybody be safe. Enjoy your weekends. We appreciate you. It's your boys. And don't forget that website, www.silverbackchronicles.com. Be safe. Be cool.
Okay, I was doing a podcast.
Yeah, this kid here on the phone.
I mean, yo,
I
that
catch
man
you
can
back.
do whatever he
That's
wants.
OG right
He
there.
can do whatever he
Wow.
wants. You know what I'm saying? That's organic. He
That's
can do whatever he
organic.
wants.
But,
I meant to cut my phone off.
it's all love, baby. Be safe, everybody.
Peace and love.
And we'll see you next week.
Come back for 53.
53.
Got a treat for you.
The views and opinions of the federal, state, or local government. This includes, but not exclusive to, the Department of Defense and/or the Baltimore City Police Department.
What was that, Chris?
Hmm?
How much was that? Like 40 minutes?
Not 50.
50. That's
Oh, 51. That's
On
good.
the nose.
Ooh,
Perfect.
Good.
this is
Mr. King. You the man, baby.
lit that on fire.
I think it was a good podcast.
Now
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
we gotta get the word out.
Spit the truth. That's it. I mean, enough with the bullshit with these people.